The original Sonic Chaos on the Sega Master System and Game Gear was one of my favourite Sonic games for the time. More accessible than 8-bit Sonic 1 and 2, it was more of an entry point for young Sonic fans, allowing you to play as Sonic for a more difficult playthrough or Tails for an easier one. It's only the second use of the Super Peel-Out ability, first seen only 1 month earlier in Sonic CD, and the first time the player could make Tails fly. Unique level design, gimmicks and character models, only seen elsewhere in its sequel Sonic Triple Trouble, Sonic Chaos brought a unique style to the Sonic series. Now, 25 years after its original release, a group of talented developers from the YouTube channel A Start has decided to take this 8-bit classic and turn it into a Sonic Mania-style 16-bit dream. Completely redesigned levels, physics, bosses and more, this is bringing the retro classic and turning into a modern gem. Sonic Chaos Reimagined released its first demo in August this year, with the first 2 levels of the game in Turquoise Hill Zone being available to play as both Sonic and Tails. Using its own custom engine known as the Crimson Engine, it harnesses a very similar style to Sonic Mania, including 60 frames per second gameplay, 1080p resolution, and the awesome new drop dash for Sonic, making the game feel right at home alongside Sonic's latest 2D outing. It brings in many needed updates to the gameplay, such as Tails can now fly with a double jump, unlike the original Sonic Chaos where you had to hold up and jump. And Tails also had no physics when flying. This version allows Tails to gain tons of momentum and fly across levels at top speed, just as you would expect him to fly from the later Sonic games to release. These updates bring the game into a position where it will continue to stand the test of time. The original nowadays is very sluggish, full of frame drops and unresponsive controls, making it much less enjoyable to play than anyone will remember. So a modern remake is just what this game needed to bring it back into the minds of the Sonic fan base and also to a new audience. Of course, the original was on an 8-bit cartridge, meaning levels lasted less than a minute and generally weren't particularly complex or packed with enemies. With modern software, the development team has thankfully taken the time to fully reimagine levels, making them much longer, adding multiple routes, new and more enemies, and much more complex level designs, such as more verticality to each level, giving the traditional tiered level design of the 16-bit era, and adding new gimmicks, such as this tree hook thing, that when hit with speed will spin you up and send you flying off with fantastic speed to keep the momentum going. Combined with Tails' ability to fly and Sonic's drop dash, these new tree hooks are a great gimmick, and I would love to see them used in other Sonic titles, as grabbing onto one of these is rewarding and ultimately fun to use. Sadly, the rocket boots from the original game and the Super Peel-Out ability are not present in this demo, but I am sure these will appear in the final game, as they were a great addition to the original. For covering this demo, I replayed the same zones from the original Sonic Chaos, and the level design is quite different from other Sonic games. Generally more forgiving with no pitfalls, and slightly more maze-like than other games in the series, Sonic Chaos was a particularly unique Sonic game. This reimagining seems to take on the same concept, with more varied level design than most Sonic games, with more left movement, complex tunnel systems, and, for better or worse, much more difficult level design. However, as fun as the level design is, I think it does need some improvement in some areas. There is one section in Act 2 in particular that I got stuck on for a few minutes with both characters, as the flow of the area really doesn't make it clear on where you need to go. Springs are in place to push you back, but if you jump over them, you're somehow also going the wrong way, and it will loop you back in the wrong direction. Eventually you will find the route to take. In this particular area, it took a lot of left movement, but it doesn't come to you naturally, and instead comes from a tedious trial and error cycle to find your way. I find this does happen in many fan-designed games, as it is likely not tested by many people that didn't work on the game. thus not really getting a player's perspective of the level. Thankfully, sections like this are rare, and this specific area is definitely the biggest example of the confusing level design that I could personally find. With a few tweaks, I'm sure the development team could improve areas like this to give a smoother flow to the level, as the rest of the level design so far is fantastic, with multiple layers and paths to take. Moving on from level design is the presentation, and this reimagining pulls no punches in making wonderfully crafted backgrounds, character models, and music. This is where the reimagining really shows its Sonic Chaos roots. The background design has been spruced up to 16-bit levels, with a much lighter colour palette, more detail, and larger background objects to make the environment a lot more interesting visually. The foreground has of course been updated as well, not only with new objects such as more detailed flowers and the ground itself, but with new geometry to the flooring as well. Whereas the original had lots of flat sections of ground, this version has more dips and raises, making running straight much more interesting. Act 1 is more traditional to the original Sonic Chaos level, sticking with a tropical background view throughout. When the level ends, you drop into a cave where you enter the second level, and spend the first few minutes working your way out of it. This is a really nice transition through the world, in similar style to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and it's really good to see replicated well in a fan-made game. Character models are also beautifully done. They seem to mainly be using the character models from Sonic Mania, or at least be heavily based on them, except a few nice little touches have been thrown in for good measure, such as new animations for the tree hooks and springs, and Sonic and Tails seem to have slightly different run animations than they did in Mania. Overall, they are wonderful sprite animations and models and fit perfectly with the world, as do enemies and bosses as well, with the enemies taking design inspiration from their original counterparts, but significantly overhauling them to fit the new world design. All of this beautiful sprite art is complemented by the amazing soundtrack. Sonic games rarely fail in this area, and this reimagining is no exception. Act 1 uses, as far as I can tell, an entirely original song, with a tropical island style theme to match the environment and background. It seems to use instruments rarely used in other Sonic games, and is very unique in its style. Act 2 uses a faster paced and awesome remake of the original Turquoise Hill theme, which is one of my favourite Sonic Zone themes, so I'm very glad to see it remade here to great effect, and homaging to the original. The boss theme music is also some of my favourite here in a modern Sonic game. Act 1 bosses are somewhat reminiscent of the Sonic 3 Act 1 boss fights, and uses a slightly slower pace than Act 2, which are again based on the boss fight music of the original game. These two songs have a great pace to them, and match the tone of the boss fights themselves very well. Speaking of boss fights, the two on offer here are a joy to fight. The first is a reimagining of the first boss fight in Sonic Chaos, except instead of a spring on its body is like a pinball, meaning you have to precisely hit its head to do damage. It's very nicely detailed, with parts falling off its body left and right as you go for the kill. The second boss fight is quite unique as well. It seems to take inspiration from older Sonic 2D outings and mix them together, both in visual style and mechanics. Both boss fights here are enjoyable and a promising difficulty level for the rest of the game. After you defeat the second boss, you chase down Robotnik, in a homage to the opening of the original Sonic Chaos, really showing attention to detail in this remake. Overall, Sonic Chaos Reimagining is a fantastic piece of work, once again from the Sonic fan game community. It's amazing how a franchise as big as Sonic the Hedgehog lives on with great games from its fans rather than its actual owner. This game gave perfect feelings of nostalgia for me, as I remembered playing through the original multiple times. If this remake can keep up the fantastic game on offer here so far, adding special zones, the original's gimmicks, and, in my opinion, tweaking some of the level design as well, then we're going to have yet another amazing 2D Sonic game on our hands soon. Thank you all for watching. My name's Phil, and I was the creator of this video. If you'd like to check out more on the Sonic Chaos Reimagining, I have linked to the developer's YouTube channel below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the Pixel Tavern and share the video. It really helps me to create more content and build the channel further. If you have any games you would like to suggest I cover, please leave a comment below. There's also more videos available on the screen now. Till the next video guys, thank you very much for watching.